There you go.
I'd like to officially call this town board meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Supervisor Vastola,
Present.
Councilman O'Connor,
Here.
Councilman Stat,
Here.
Councilman Gronwell,
Here.
Councilwoman Crowley.
Here.
Thank you. Salute to the flag, our new assessor, Holly.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Holly. Need a motion to approve the July 10th minutes.
I make a motion to approve the July 10th minutes.
Second. Those in favor? Aye. It carries. And we do have a presentation for the New York State Climate Smart Communities, Clean Energy Communities. Rob, are you going to take it from here?
I'm gonna take it from here.
Okay.
Thank you for having us to talk about these two programs. My name is Rob Richardson. I'm the Clean Energy Communities Coordinator. My colleague Rachel Scudder is the Climate Smart Communities Coordinator for the 9-county region. And we're really excited to be talking to the town of Canadice because you guys have already done some really incredible work. You guys are the first municipality in our 9-county region to retrofit a municipal building to geothermal. And that is a massive achievement. And that is a story that we're really excited to tell. And one of the ways that we can do that is through these two programs. Next slide, please. So I always think it's good to kind of know who you're working with. So I always like to give a little introduction of who I am and what my background is. My background is actually not in planning. My background is in municipal management. And prior to the role that I have now, I was the assistant city manager in Canandaigua, New York for 4 years, where I was directly responsible for the city's involvement in both the CEC and the CSC programs, as well as a bunch of other environmental initiatives that were on my desk. While I was there, I helped guide the city to both a CEC certification, as well as a Climate Smart Communities Bronze certification. And the love for that work honestly kind of guided me here. We hit a plateau with the city where we couldn't go much further. And an opportunity opened up for me to do the kind of work that I've been doing with the city with 188 communities in our 9-county region. So for me, that was really too good of an opportunity to pass up. And that's how I ended up at Genesee Finger Lakes. I absolutely love my job. And I think that'll probably come through tonight. But in the little bit of spare time that I am a boys varsity soccer coach. I've been coaching for 19 years at HAC. And helps keep me young, but I'm not staying young very long. So next slide, please. I'll turn it over to Rachel so she can give her background.
My name is Rachel Scudder. I'm the Climate Smart Communities Coordinator. I graduated in 2016 with a bachelor's of landscape architecture from SUNY ESF. I went back to school because I realized I didn't really want to do landscape architecture. I really liked more holistic views and planning sort of aspects type of things. So I went back to school for a master's in urban design and community and regional planning from Iowa State University. Out of school, I worked as a regional planner in Vermont, actually in the Windsor area where a lot of the flooding has happened. Not so lucky there. So I worked on public health, broadband, hazard mitigation, the cannabis legislation, downtown planning, and streetscapes design. I grew up in the Finger Lakes region, so I always wanted to come home, going back to school. So the GFL position really opened that up for me, and I started work last July, so I've been here a little bit over a year as the Climate Smart Communities Coordinator.
So real quick background on the Clean Energy Communities Program. It started in 2016 by NYSERDA with really two simple goals. And the first one is how can we help municipalities save money, but also find more efficient ways to provide services in their operations. Next slide, please. So the program offers some benefits. One of the main ones being that we can help find ways to reduce utility bills. The town has already taken a massive step towards doing that with the installation of the geothermal system, which again is an awesome achievement. But it also helps provide funding for future things that you guys may want to do. And one of the things that's really nice about the program that I facilitate is all the funding is achievement based. And with some of the things that the town has already achieved, there is funding there for them to claim right off the bat. And that's really, really exciting. It also is great to note that any support that you guys get from Rachel or I is completely free to the community. We are both on contracts that have already been paid for, so all the services that we provide come at no cost to the municipality or to the taxpayer. My
It's a
favorite
huge benefit.
my favorite part of the job is actually being boots on the ground, working with communities and helping them be successful. So this is anything that we do is never gonna come with a bill to the town.
Love it.
So there's been two versions of this program, and the first version of this program ended actually the day before I started this job. I started January 26, 2021. And this was what the program looked like in the first round. As you can see, there wasn't a ton of participation outside of Monroe County. There was a little bit in Ontario County, a little bit in Livingston, a little bit in Wayne. But it didn't really grab communities the way that NYSERDA had hoped. So the next thing that they did was roll out a 2.0 version of this program that coincided very conveniently with me starting at Genesee Finger Lakes. If you want to go to the next slide, please. And that was a really exciting opportunity because it opened up funding and made it more available to small communities. It also created a lot more entry points into the program so that essentially the match-free funding and finding ways to help every community achieve whatever it is that they're looking to achieve made the program more appealing to communities in our region. Next slide, please. Part of that was I had about $1.7 million in match-free funding for communities essentially to come get. As it's all achievement-based, whatever a community decides that they'd like to pursue, I'm here to help them do that. All of the funding is match-free. I like to reinforce that because in New York State, that's something that does not exist. It also added some new high-impact actions to the program, one of which is going to benefit the municipality and the clean heating and cooling demo. But it also came up with a point system. So in the first round, all the 10 actions were weighed exactly the same, but that didn't make a lot of sense because some of those actions were really difficult to complete. They took a long time. So by adding a point system, it gave extra gravity to things that are difficult to accomplish and harder to accomplish for communities. And that's one of the things that's going to benefit the town because of some of the things that you've already done are not easy to achieve. Next slide, please. So this is actually a current snapshot of where we are in the program today as of 4:30 when I added this slide into the deck. As you can see, we've had a really good response to the second round of this program. Part of that is having more people supporting the program than just one coordinator. Part of that, I think, is having done this program myself from the municipal perspective. I understand how it works and I can make it really easy and efficient for communities so that it doesn't become a big municipal burden. It's not something that's going to be a burden on staff. It's not something that you guys are going to have to worry about devoting time to. That's really what Rachel and I are here to do is to make sure that all that heavy lifting gets done for you. Next slide, please. So every community in New York State has what's called a clean energy community scorecard. And this is what the town of Candidiasis looks like right now. However, we know that this is wholly inaccurate. The geothermal system that you guys put in counts as a clean energy upgrade. And in order for us to be able to submit that, we need to have one of the things that I believe is on the docket tonight is the benchmarking legislation, which is essentially a commitment by the community to say, we are going to monitor all of the buildings that we own that are over 1,000 square feet to just track our energy usage. And that's something that you guys are already doing anyway. You need to track it year to year for budgetary purposes. So essentially, it's just tracking in a different mechanism. We would actually build that mechanism for you, and we've actually already done that. So you guys have already completed the second part of benchmarking, and that we've gone through and looked at all the energy usage in your buildings over the last 2 years, which is going to make us able to submit a whole bunch of things very quickly. It's a really great time to start the program because we expect a new version to come out either late this year or early next year. So anything that we can get in now is just going to give the town an appropriate benchmark for when that next version comes out so that we're ready for any funding opportunities that may exist when the program expands either at the end of this year or the beginning of next year. And as you'll see here, anything that's in green is something that either the town has already done or is going to do. So code enforcement training, the code officer is registered to go to the Farmington training on the 30th of August. That's probably the easiest high impact action item to complete in the program. And it benefits the code officer because they get 8 hours of continuing ed that they need for their year-to-year certification anyway. The unified solar permit is another thing that's on the agenda tonight. This is only for projects that are 25 kilowatts or less. These are for the residents that want to put a couple panels on their roof or in their backyard to offset the cost of their electric, or maybe the small business that wants to do the same to offset their costs. These are not massive scale projects that should come before the town board, the planning board, the zoning, everything. This is only meant to help residents who want to do it on their personal property.
And do we have to record those activities as they occur?
So that process is twofold. One is you would essentially pass a resolution saying, we are going to use this state permitting form.
If we've already used it and then we just modified it to further align with what's required. We
Okay.
already did it earlier, but we just modified it.
Essentially, you guys started using the form without passing the resolution saying that you were going to use the form.
Well, good for us. My question is, how far back can we go? Because, you know, I see signs around town that solar projects are going in, you know, home solar.
Well, that's a separate piece. We just get 200 points for doing the solar permit.
Um,
So just by writing this resolution tonight and passing it, we get 200 points. It's that easy.
okay,
And any 4 items in this program equal a $5,000 grant for the community. So
so we're there.
by the end of August, you guys will have at least 5 completed and you'll have a $5,000 grant.
Okay,
So
In this year's budget.
in this year's budget, that money would come in a form of a check to town hall, which is nice because any of the grants in this program less than 10,000 don't have a contract. So for example, if you guys decided you wanted to do a community campaign for residents, either to do community solar or clean heating and cooling, and you were able to successfully get so many residents to either sign up for a campaign or to do an installation, then you would get a grant as the town to use towards other future clean energy projects.
Cool.
But what's nice about this program and Rachel's program is that they're both completely voluntary. There's nothing binding or obligating to communities to participate. And if at any point you decide that you're not into it anymore, you simply just walk away and let me know if there's anything that I can do to help you in the future. But you know, I speak for Rachel and I both when we say that our goal is really to try to build relationships with the communities in our region so that we can be a resource, you know, not just for the quick grant money that you can bring in the short term, but what you guys may want to accomplish in the long term as a community and how we can help you benefit from that as well. Next slide, please. So where my program really only covers municipal energy usage and ways to find municipalities to be more efficient, Rachel's program is a lot cooler because it covers way more things. It's put together not just by NYSERDA, but it's also put together by the Department of Energy Conservation or Environmental Conservation, Department of Public Service, Department of State, Department of Transportation, Department of Health, and NYPA all have input into the items that are in this program. And what's really nice is that, next slide, please. This really illustrates how the CEC program that I facilitate kind of moves into the next level of things for community. So what you find in the CSC program is that there's a lot of things that a community is already doing. If you have anything in your legislation or zoning about protecting any type of land, whether it's for agriculture or for environmental purposes, that counts for points in the CSC program. If you're doing any kind of community outreach, that counts for points in the CSC program. If you have any incentives for homeowners to look at doing some of this stuff on their own property, that could count towards points in this program. So whereas this program that I facilitate is very municipally focused, the CSC program is really outwardly focused, and it's really driven by a relationship between the municipality itself and the residents and stakeholders that want to see it be successful. Next slide, please. So this is just a quick list of the 12 pledge elements that are part of the CSC program. The town has already adopted the CSC pledge, which is great. As you can see, the really only one that applies to the CS or the CEC program is the third one, and that's decrease energy use. So there are so many more points of entry. And that's the other thing that I think is really great about Rachel's program is where I only have like 12 items, hers has 144. So there's so many different things that communities can look at and prioritize based on what's the best fit for them. Next slide. The other really great thing is that there's a very intentional overlap between the CSC and the CEC program. So anything that you guys accomplish in the CEC program directly correlates to success in the CSC program as well. So we met with Chris last week, I think it was Tuesday, and we quickly went over the list of CSC action items to kind of just get a rough temperature for where the town actually was based on the things that it's already done,
See if it's worth it.
to see if it's really a good use of their time to pursue. You need 120 points to get your bronze designation. You roughly have 150, and maybe then some if you guys wanted to do a greenhouse gas inventory. So you're really already there. It's just a matter of documenting the work that the town's already done so that you can start to capitalize on that. The CSC program doesn't have any direct grant funding right now, but what it does offer is a CFA line of funding specifically for CSC communities, where they'll cover up to a 50% match of a $4 million project. So if you bring them a $4 million project and they really like it, they'll match up to $2 million of that project. The other thing that it does is it gives the community grant points on other applications for other types of grants and other agencies. So by having the CSC bronze designation, you get bonus points on a whole plethora of applications. And I think you have a list that you can send. But you know, EPA, Department of State, federal money, all of it.
You're doing any sort of water work, which every
Yeah.
municipality is doing, flooding or flood mitigation or things like that.
Yep. And what's really nice about that CSC line for the CFA is that they really want that money to go to communities that have already shown a commitment to moving forward and doing great work. So I would never guarantee anything in life, but man, you guys have a phenomenal story to tell about the commitment that you already made on this building. And that's the kind of thing that the state wants to see when it's looking at communities that wants to invest in long term. So in both cases, in both programs, with the work that the community's really already done, you've achieved a substantial amount. And with some of the things that you guys might do in the future, there's nothing saying that you couldn't bring in a substantial amount more grant money into the community to help make that possible. Next slide, please. So some ideas and opportunities as you guys are kind of exploring this as a community and getting started. The first one being, look at either joining or being part of the CSC task force. It's really a great process because it's meant to be resident driven. It's meant to be bottom up, and it's meant to be a partnership where, the community is working with the municipality and vice versa to help find success in this program. So that way Chris isn't trying to do everything by himself, which he likes to do. But that the community also has a vested stake in the work that you guys pursue. So, having that stakeholder engagement from residents, from business owners, anybody that really wants to be involved. I would even recommend thinking about adding kids from the high school. There's been a lot of communities that have seen success by adding high school students onto their task force. One in particular, Homer, New York, essentially gave it to a senior class as a capstone project. And the senior class worked with the municipality to earn them their bronze designation. So that was a great story, and just an example of what you guys can accomplish working together. But the big thing is continuing to think about the way that things that you guys are. Continue to think forward, continue to think about things in the long term like you already have. And now maybe find ways that we can help benefit the residents, whether it's through community campaigns or other work that we can do in one of these programs to continue to increase the quality of life for the folks that live in the town of Canada. So with that, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. Next slide, I think, is the best one in the deck. So I will send this slide deck to Chris so that he can provide it to anybody that's interested in having this. But all the hyperlinks in this are live. So if you click on any of these, it's going to take you exactly where it says it's going to take you. Couple of cool websites, the Clean Energy Communities website for the program that I facilitate. It's got a map of all the communities in New York State. It's got a map of all the communities in the Finger Lakes, a lot of really good resources there. There's some videos of communities talking about their experience in the CEC program and why, they chose to implement certain actions over others and the benefits that they've seen. The guidance document, this is the exact reference that I get from NYSERDA to administer the program, so I feel like it's important to share with communities so that they have access to it as well. High impact action overviews, just a very quick 2 to 3 sentences about each of the items in my program. The toolkits is probably the coolest thing on here. If you click on that link, it's going to take you to another page where all of the high impact action items in the program are listed. If you click on any of those, it's going to take you into a whole bunch of information about, you know, why a community would do this, template resources that a community might need to implement these actions, information that it can share with residents about why it's choosing to implement these actions. And all of this is there for anybody that's interested to look at it. As I said earlier, most of the stuff in the toolkits I'll handle because that's the heavy lifting that I get compensated by New York State to do. But it's also really cool to look at if you're interested and kind of want to see how the program works and how it all fits together. There's also some links for the Climate Smart Communities website and that portal. If you wanted to take a look at Rachel's program and see how much more expanded it is and how many more cool opportunities that exist. I can tell you that you get the first third of the points that you need for a CSC designation by passing the resolution, which you guys have already done, by naming a task force chair and a task force and meeting, and then working in a regional program, which you guys would be doing working in CEC. So, you know, again, everything that you guys have kind of done to lead up to this meeting, to this presentation, has put you guys on the verge of being really successful. It's just a matter of kind of putting all the paperwork together and submitting it in a nice, tidy fashion. Next slide, please. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, as is Rachel, if you have any about either program. Those are our email addresses and phone numbers. The phone numbers are supposed to be hooked up at the end of the month because we switched offices. But either way, those are our email addresses if anybody wants to get in touch with us directly or has any questions. Maybe after the fact, or you think of something after the meeting. But other than that, thank you very much for your time and congratulations on all the really cool stuff that you guys have already done in this community. And I'm excited to help you guys tell that story and help you guys find success and recognition for all the really incredible things you've already done. So thank you.
Thank you. Rob and Rachel have been working very nicely with us, getting us prepped, and you can actually go online and see where we're at. Those point totals are there right now for folks to see. Yep. So that's a good thing. You can actually see what's going on here at Town Hall. That makes me happy. Go online. So essentially, I'm saying we're on fast track for bronze certification.
I would say that's a safe venture.
I thank you very much. Privilege of the floor. Essentially, we've got our NYMER harassment and discrimination prevention training at Town Hall, August 16th, and folks involved in the room were made aware of that. It starts at 9 o'clock, and it's helpful if you're there at 7 o'clock would be great, but well, I'll be bringing in some food, be here by 8:40. You only get credit if you're here at 9. All right, any other privilege of the floor at this time? We have a privilege of the floor at the end of the meeting as well.
This is Birch Craig. I have a comment.
Birch Craig, yes, sir.
So you're gonna adopt the uniform solar permit, which calls for 25K as the maximum. Our code does not specify a kilowatt. It specifies whether or not the electricity will be used on site or sold. So your permit that you're using now, that I pointed out to Steve Smith, but he kind of ignored it, doesn't match what our code says. So that's my comment.
Okay, well, that permit, the unified solar permit has been updated, so we've got one more issue with our code book to correct, is what you're saying.
Well, when we did the code, we didn't want to restrict people for their home or if they had a business for their use. So we didn't want to restrict the size of the array if they wanted to go above the 25K. 25K is, I believe, what the utilities use.
I don't think
For
this
the,
code, I don't think this permit is doing that. It's up to a certain threshold, is my understanding.
So anything that was over that would just have to go through. a different
Right,
process.
it's either residential or commercial essentially.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Well, no, because the box in the code, the uniform code says up to 25K.
So we'll have to amend our code book.
Well, you're making that judgment yourself unilaterally to do that by the existing code. I mean,
Okay, we could,
it might need a little discussion.
okay, all right. Okay,
And if you adopt the new permit, that just will nullify what the hell we had. So if you wanna do that, I
Okay.
don't know how you go about
we
doing
could,
that.
we
but,
could table it, we could table it.
And ultimately, if the community decides that that's not something that they want to move forward with. That's totally fine. It has to be a good fit for you guys.
And sitting here, we don't know the benefits of this new uniform permit relative to what we already have, so.
It's,
The benefit of it is it's a form. It's two-sided and it's meant to simplify what the submissions need to be for both the code officer and for the resident.
throughout the state.
So it's something that it's been adopted by other communities.
I'm not questioning, just questioning it if you're gonna just put it in tonight.
No,
when
I
we haven't discussed it at all.
That's very fair. It's a very fair point.
It's that, they're actually using the unified permit now in the building department,
They are,
contrary to town code.
Since 2019.
So our planning board and CEO need to take a look at that and see if there are recommendations to the code that would be appropriate.
that would make sense.
Yeah, it'd be easy enough to change the code, but just
Right.
pointing that out.
Thank you, Burge.
And I'll email you a copy of what we've got here, the changes to the existing one as well. Or you could email me, Birch, to remind me to do that. Would that be okay?
You can send it to the planning.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
already know what the, I know what the code, I know what the unified code is. And I don't need a copy of it.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Birch, for the input. Any other privilege of the floor? Communications are listed 1 through 10. Many of those were emails. There was a hard copy of the NYMER annual report. And reports, town clerk.
Paying to the supervisor for the general fund. $996.84. For water billing, $16,445.15. DEC decal $70.86. And animal population control fund $13 for a total disbursement of $17,525.85.
Thank you. I move to approve the town clerk's report. Second? Second. Those in favor? Aye, it carries. Thank you, Eileen. Historian, I do have a report, will be a resolution tonight for a deputy historian. Her name is Denise Kuhn. And she's been volunteering since Memorial Day. And the transition for historian is underway and the bots are assisting with that. CEO, they're on vacation. They're both on vacation, which is another story. But you do have the report in your packet. And we got a great report from our planning board and our planning board chair here, Ted Mewitt.
Yeah, you have the minutes in your packet. We met on July 24th. We have one subdivision application to consider. It was for a single property on South Old Ball Hill Road. Basically was split up into two parts, and each part being annexed to an adjoining property. So we basically eliminated one tax map parcel, made two others a little more conforming to our code. So there were no issues with it, there was no development on it, there were no services on the property whatsoever. So it was reviewed and approved. And that's all we had.
CVA, no official report other than the emails that you got. Highway Superintendent Jeremy.
Ready? So we've started our cold mix asphalt overlay up on Timbers Road. Had help from our neighbors in Springwater, Naples, Richmond, West Bloomfield, and in return, we've been going and assisting them with their road projects. Because it's pretty much the only way our small little crews can get anything done. We've also spent a day down in the Mill Creek project down in the town of Richmond. Had 2 trucks down there helping haul away gravel from the gravel bars. And we also had our bulldozer down there in their dump location using that. So that was kind of a combined effort between the 2 towns to work on that project. More so on their part, but. We also did spend a day cleaning out gravel bars from some of our own problem creek areas down along Canada's Lake Road. We did chip seal up on Middle Road and North Middle Road. And the major portion of our work in the past several weeks has been on the WQIP grant with a flex mat up on Canada's Hill Road. So that portion of this 3-part project is completed minus hydro seeding. I did talk with Megan at Soil and Water this morning. I'm gonna give her a up-to-date expense summary so she can submit that to her board tomorrow night and we can get reimbursed for what we've completed so far.
Excellent.
So the 2 Ford trucks that we ordered earlier this spring. I reached out to both dealers trying to find out what was happening. I was informed by Van Bortle that the F-250 was actually, how do we put it? Well, good news, it's built. And then he did a little more clickety clack. Oh, it's here in Rochester. So it's up at Unicel waiting for a wiring harness for the snowplow equipment, so we should see that as soon as that becomes available. And the F-550 1-ton dump snowplow was supposed to be built by Ford on 3rd of August and hopefully delivered to the upfitter by the end of the month, beginning of September, so that if everything goes right, we will have that at the beginning of winter or shortly into winter. Because that truck really needs to be replaced at this point. It's in pretty rough shape. And today we did a double chip seal up on the Tibbles Road project. So short of putting the shoulders down here in the next couple of weeks, that has been completed as well. And that's all I have.
Excellent. I sort of have a bridge between Terry coming up and Highway Superintendent. The town of Naples has been helping us out with our weed harvesting. They've been letting us use a piece of equipment that they don't use because one of our pieces of equipment is obsolete that we use for our weed harvest. So I thought I'd throw that in. Are you aware of that?
No, I was
No,
not.
just so you know, the town of Naples is helping us out. I could give you more information.
Yeah, I would like to hear that.
So they've been doing that all summer.
So I've got a question, as long as Rob and Rachel are here. The projects that you're doing to stabilize culverts, is that
Yes,
eligible?
absolutely.
Stream stabilizations, yeah.
Okay.
These are win-win situations. Yep. They dovetail right into it perfectly.
I've got one thing for Jeremy.
Especially-
In your absence last month, we got the bill from Martin's overhead door for servicing the doors and replacing cables. I'm wondering if you could take an inventory of all the cables on all the overhead doors and get them all replaced instead of having them
Right.
send us out,
Yeah,
once a month or every 2 or 3 months, they come out and ding us a mileage charge, service charge. Just replace them all and get it done.
Yeah, so there's 3 of them have been replaced this year. 1 was replaced last year, so that there's basically just one.
Okay.
One still that is, I don't know how old it is, but They break right down at the bottom of the door because of all the salt that lays in there, even though they're stainless steel cable, they still don't hold up.
Yeah, Lake Watershed Task Force.
So a good segue from Jeremy to my first item. So you may not realize this, Jeremy, but the week before, whatever week that was, that you were helping town flag. When that project was done, week before last, lake level dropped 6 inches in a week. And what that means is Kate could get her pontoon boat underneath the canopy.
That is,
I got tired of driving by her house, seeing the pontoon boat sitting in the water instead of the hoist. So now it's in the hoist. I
that's,
saw it in the hoist this morning. So thank you very much.
yes, thank you, Jeremy.
Now, just so everybody knows, this is what you would call a temporary fix. The next time we get 5 inches of rain in 3 hours, we'll be right back to where we were. This is a shale-based system. So they removed 2 shale bars that were blocking the outlet, which is great stuff. And Daryl Marshall, the supervisor of Richmond, is energetically pursuing a master permit to do the whole.
Yeah, and can I just interject for a second? Since we have a DEC person here, the DEC kind of drags their feet. This is part of our problem. So maybe you can bring that forward to somebody at some point.
The town of Richmond has had great difficulties in getting permits, and it goes along.
Sorry.
It goes along the line of. The DEC has a balance of objectives, so the town is trying to deal with flooding and lake level issues. But your organization, the DEC, is also worried about wildlife and critters that live in the streams and stuff like that, so. It's a difficult situation.
Yeah, it's a different department, I think, in the
Yeah.
DOC, but.
Yeah.
You know, if
But
you
as long
ever-
as we got into
You
that,
can always contact me.
as long as we got into that,
We have a watershed coordinator as well, so.
it was a pretty high level statement you made, but. As we move forward with these 2 programs. Would we get? Any advantages for environmental grants or not? It would work to our advantage if we submitted,
Any resiliency work that you
that's
guys
what I mean, yeah.
wanted to potentially do, you could funnel right through the CFA.
Culverts, bridges,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes, that's all part of the CSC program.
Yeah.
Screen
Send
bank,
that.
stabilization,
And I'll send you the exact.
Repairing buffers, it's
Yeah.
all,
just a second, I'm
All
all
the
for
extra
this,
that
Chris.
is first.
I'm all for this, Chris, I'm all for this. Magic that
and,
word,
and
yeah,
the fact that you guys are working in unison with a bunch of other municipalities and watershed is also something that gets you points, because it's a community engagement thing.
So they've asked for those things to.
so. What I'm gonna say about the lake right now. Is. We've had no major blue-green algae blooms, widespread. Surface scum, green paint, anything like that. But the amount of blue-green algae in the water column. Is higher than we expected, because again, we'll go back to the DEC. They did a elm treatment, aluminum sulfate treatment pilot last November. Which should be locking up the pocket phosphorus in the bottom sediments. And all I will say about that is. We haven't got our July water quality lab report yet. But that will tell us, numerically, that will tell us. So. Visually, no major blooms, more algae in the water column expected. Hopefully in a few days, we'll start getting July reports and we'll go from there. Held our quarterly task force meeting on July 27th. Normal business items, project status. One new item cropped up, which you'll hear more about as I go forward. The staff at the FLCC Mueller Field Station has discovered an invasive aquatic plant in the inlet. European frogbat. And it probably was spread by waterfowl. And the only mediation is to pull it. And they've been organizing student volunteers with the college. To help them. Do campaigns, yeah, to pull it. And I know Chris shared with you and Jeremy, I don't know if he saw it or not. Jeremy, did you get the Ontario County Soil and Water newsletter? I'll bet you're on their email list.
I saw it on their webpage.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so I put two of them in here that are. The town of Richmond did a drainage stabilization. Sort of a culvert. That would. Which helps the lake and Soil and Water. Got a $30,000 grant to go after hemlock woolly adelgid, which was gonna kill our hemlock trees. And I have talked to Megan and Katie 3 times in the last 3 months. So you're next, Jeremy. So they're gonna do an article on your Fleximent project. So I would expect in a couple months.
Alright,
And we will see an article on that.
just like last year. Yeah, got one last year.
And that is my update. It's just questions.
And speaking of invasives with the lake, so we talked last month about the portable wash station. And
Yes.
which will transport from the state launch to the town launch in Richmond. I had a meeting with the college last week and talked to them about establishing a wash station at FLCC Northfield Station. As part of it, so they were kind of happy that we were doing that. That we're 25% of it, so FLCC is gonna move forward with that as well.
Yeah, so I forgot about that. I should have done that.
Oh, it's fine, that's
Yeah,
fine.
I did. So. We're partnering with the town of Richmond. And the Ontario County Planning Department is doing a grant. And applying for a grant for a. Portable, meaning it's a trailer. Boat wash station. And we're gonna try it at the state launch, could put it at the Sandy Bottom Park launch. Could do whatever we want with it, so we'll have to get the grant first, but we've applied.
And also talking to the college about analyzing what they collect as well. Which will be another opportunity for research for them.
Absolutely.
They're thrilled.
All right,
I think we talked about it a little bit last month, didn't we?
no, I don't think so.
Wasn't this meeting? I can't.
But this is becoming very. Prevalent. North America. Actually, the eastern Finger Lakes. Skaneateles, Otisco, whatever. Have these. The western Finger Lakes do not. Yeah. We're moving there. We're getting there, just like this energy stuff. We're moving there. I was done before.
Because maybe because we floated the Genesis.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Assessor, we had a very nice comprehensive report from our assessor. Anything to add while you're here, Holly?
Just the 2 different things on there is the star, sanction amounts increased.
Yep.
Which is good, and, this time.
Yes, congratulations once again. Resolution's coming up. Water district operations.
So the July gallons pumped was right in line with last year. It's actually 65,000 gallons lower. Even with the note from Mr. Rowley that it appears that someone is watering in either lawns or small trees. And then the other thing that's in your packet is the maintenance report. And what I would tell you is it was $12,000 for this last quarter versus $15,000 last year. The one thing I did note is the tank metering equipment was not bought through RWW, so it was on a separate invoice. And I do not know how much that equipment was. I think Dave said it was either $3,000 or $4,000, right?
I don't.
And that would come out of the water district, of course. So, all in all, it was a good report, and the CEO and Eileen have been finishing up the meter reads for problem meters, and then I can do the reconciliation for the budget.
Thank you. Thank you for your help with those water issues. Okay. Supervisors report, we have the financial report. Need a motion to approve. Second,
I'll second.
those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carries, I abstain. Okay, our sidewalk repairs are moving along quite nicely, as you could all see this evening. They started the demo on the front today. And our gardener even came in and put out a few flowers, mulched a little bit, which was really nice. And our highway department also buttoned up the adjoining area. Thank you to Jeremy for that. The Honeywell Central Schools, we've got that day of service coming up the first Friday. Excuse me, the last Friday in September. And I'm developing a task list. I would like some help and volunteers for that. Essentially, every student in Honeywell Central Schools will be involved with helping out the town of Richmond and the town of Candice, including faculty and staff. So they'll give us an hour and a half or so of labors, and it will be transported here and back. That's coming up soon.
So have you seen the list of tasks yet or not?
I have a list of tasks, yes.
Could you just give us a rough idea what they might be?
I can, our Candice Hollow Cemetery. Possibly cleaning up our court a little bit, maybe painting, trying to develop some outdoor and indoor activities. Because if it's raining, we've got to have some indoor things to do as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Planting more flowers, mulching, weeding. Painting, we have a nice picnic table out here that could use a coat of paint. We could bring it to the highway garage and have them paint it there as a backup. Would that work out okay, Jeremy?
Potentially.
Okay. We might even have to have you deliver it there, but it's rain. So I have to look at the weather forecast. Yes, I'm getting up on Friday. Oh, that's right, it's a Friday. Are you on winter hours yet by then?
Not until Thanksgiving.
Awesome. Okay. Hey, we have a resolution appointing Holly Swingle as sole assessor for the town of Candice. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
It carries. It's official. Holly, you are a new town assessor. You. She's done a great job from day one. When we interviewed her, I was delighted. And it's worked out really great. And thanks for the great mentoring as well. Thank you.
I will have to turn my resignation to the board and to the state tomorrow.
Excellent, excellent. And I'd like to just block two resolutions, one to set the budget workshop and the public hearing. There'll be two public hearings next month, September 12th, resolutions 2 and 3.
I'll move it.
I'll second. Terry, all
I
right,
second.
Terry, second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, those carry. Public hearing on the revision of short-term rental law to entertain comments. We're setting the public hearing for a revision of short-term rental law to entertain comments. So we got 3 public hearings. I just thought I'd do that one second.
Okay, so do you want comments for the short-term rental at the next meeting?
That's really what that's for, and we could still massage it in the meantime.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So maybe
It wouldn't,
look at it too. Yep.
yeah, it wouldn't have to be passed at the next meeting. If there were still a lot of things you wanted to talk about, it could be held over again, but at least that'll start the process.
Super.
I want to show you what Sheila came back with. Yep. Yep. I think I emailed that too.
Either you or Eileen, somebody.
Okay, yeah, well, I've been emailing you a lot. I apologize for all the emails. Richard, same thing. I apologize for all the emails. I'm trying to keep you in the loop. But they're gonna keep coming. Okay, so those in favor of setting the public hearing for short-term rental law,
I make a motion.
I'll second.
okay, Mark second, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that carries, thank you. Adoption of unified New York State solar permit.
We're gonna hold and let the planning board and code enforcement officer.
We're gonna table that. Making sure,
Okay.
thank you. establishing energy benchmarking requirements for buildings. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
It carries.
How big is our courthouse? Is it over 1,000 square foot?
I don't think so.
Cause I looked online and one of the buildings says it's 952. Is there any wiggle room there?
I have that on my system.
That's what I was afraid of.
Some bay windows.
You're welcome to include that building as well if you'd like. They just usually most communities prefer to keep it at 1,000 or more because they'll have like a lot of lodges or gazebos or things in parks and things like that.
Oh, no, we think there's work that could be done on that building.
So we can
That
add
would
that.
qualify.
We got, it needs work.
That would get
And plus the legacy of it, being a schoolhouse till 1947, then going to a town hall in 2000.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome,
That's part of what we were discussing.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good question.
And we don't have to adjust those to include, okay, beautiful,
Thank you.
thank
Send
you.
the information over.
Okay, and we voted on that.
Nope, I make a motion to approve.
I'll second. Those in favor?
Actually, we had a motion in a second, so you just needed to approve it, but that's okay.
That's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We
We're
did
good.
approve it.
We're good.
Thank you. That's why we have a great town clerk. It's Eileen, virtual, close by. Appointment as deputy historian Denise Kuhn. John moves, second. Second, Terry, those in favor?
Aye.
Right. 23-24 propane contracts awarded to Superior. We voted on it last, but we did not do the resolution last month. So just the formality of the resolution. I'll move it.
I'll second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
All right, guys have it. Approval of the bills.
I'll move it.
Terry moves, second.
I'll second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
All right, that carries. Privilege of the floor. I have more fun. If someone would like to join me on August 17th at 2:30, I get to go to a FEMA flood study project in-person meeting in Canandaigua, and before it becomes public, folks like myself get to go to understand the wide
So
ranging.
the meeting is in Canandaigua?
Of course it is.
Well, so it's not just the town of Canada, so it's,
Oh, it's a whole county.
that's what I was trying to understand.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, FEMA. Yeah, FEMA wouldn't just come for Canada.
Well, I kind of understand.
Well, they might. I have very little contact with federal officials, fortunately, because I like to get things done, but that's another story for the day.
It's a little tight, but if you can send me I know it's 2:30, but if you can send me the location.
County safety facility. Training
It's
facility.
all of the country there.
We are, yeah, not just, yeah, we're going.
Yeah, I
past-
know where it is. It's out beyond the
It's 34 miles.
dog and cat shelter.
Yes, on the left. Yep, go down.
I know where it is.
All right, good. All right, since I have a couple folks here I haven't seen before, we are looking for committee people. We're looking for our task force for our Clean Smart, Clean Energy Communities. We also have a bicentennial coming up in 2030. There's all kinds of opportunities here in our town.
And who would they contact if they would like to be part of the clean energy community task force?
Certainly can contact me at this point, but I've been advised at some point I need to give that up. And I'll be more than happy to turn that over to somebody, but right now I'll be the go-to person, but I'm looking forward to handing that torch to someone else. I really like that opportunity. Thank you.
You got a lot on your plate. As it is.
I'm trying. Anything else, privilege of the floor? I thought we were gonna go long tonight. This is a short one. I'm sorry. Thank you all for coming. No other privilege of the floor.
John,
Motion to adjourn.
second.
Those in favor?
You notice I didn't jump there.
Thank you all for coming.
You gotta respect seniority.
Rachel, Could I get your phone number? I couldn't read it on the.
Yeah, so, our phones aren't hooked up right now, but I'll give you my cell phone number, which is what Chris has, so 585. 739. 7505.
I haven't heard him come back yet.